Hey everybody, it's Luke from Luke and Larry, Guardians of Geek. This week's episode is episode 6 called Visitors. It's going to be jam-packed. We've got a review of Captain Marvel, plus we're going to be doing our second part of our V series, where we're going to be looking at V, the final battle. There's going to be aliens, there's going to be resistance, cool guys in leather jackets just like this one, and we blew the budget and got a brand new V vintage poster. It looks absolutely... Larry!
In a world filled with intergalactic space battles, metahuman destruction on a global scale, and psychopathic serial hauntings, there's only one team who can make sense of it all. When your world is overrun with rampant pop culture, call Luke and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
I've just given in to the explosions. Just let it happen. I don't care anymore.
That's all we can do at this point, right? We can't do much more than that. So we know it's going to come. We know the explosion's going to happen.
Step out of the way. Let it happen.
All right, bring it on. Bring it on. It does pump me up because it's another episode of Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek. I'm Loop.
And I'm Larry.
Are you falling there off a cliff?
A little bit.
I may need medics.
I'm fine now.
So it's been kind of an exciting week because a new movie has just come out finally.
Yep.
Captain Marvel has come to what we call the theater.
This is getting us all pumped up for Endgame.
Yes.
So
yes,
we're all pretty stoked, and Loop and I have both seen it. We're gonna do a little thing called nearing the expiration date, but not quite spoiled yet. Movie reviews.
Because we're not gonna spoil the whole thing, but we're gonna talk about it so that you get a sense of what's going on, right? Because we don't want to talk about it 4 weeks from now. It doesn't make any sense.
No, we're gonna talk about it right now.
So if you haven't seen the movie, you can either listen to this or you can skip 10 minutes into this podcast.
That's right.
Okay. Maybe not even that much. I don't know. So what did you think of the movie?
I liked it.
Okay.
So I thought it was a good movie. I was thoroughly entertained. I loved the reveals, the cool reveals of different things. I don't know how spoiler are we?
We can talk about it.
Okay. So I liked the whole Tesseract thing. I liked the origin of Nick Fury's eyes and all of that stuff. And I thought that kind of thing was really cool. And I liked that it's going to lead right into Endgame. I think this is really cool. My only issue was that I'm not 100% sold on Brie Larson.
Okay. All right.
I wasn't sure that she was the right person for the role. She looked great and was, like, as far as action goes, she did a great job, but I didn't find her as engaging as I wanted her to be.
Right. And I think part of the problem, and it's not her, I like her as Captain Marvel, but in her own movie, and she was fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing wrong with her.
No.
And I know what you're saying. I think in a larger group sort of setting, she'll shine a lot more.
Yeah.
When she's bouncing off of, like, your Rocket Raccoons, and
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, 'cause she's a little bit more of a serious character because she has that sort of army background. I quite liked the movie. I thought it was good. I won't say struggled, but I found the first probably like 45 a little slow.
Yes.
Because they dealt with at the beginning. There was a big twist in it. I won't tell you what it is, or Larry, because you probably know. But then there's a bunch of twists, so you're not sure which twist exactly I'm talking about.
So twisty.
It's very twisty. But the whole Kree part, I understood it because I read those comics at the time.
Right.
There was obviously some things they did differently that I'm glad they did differently in the movie. It was a little bit, like, jarring because it's like, oh, suddenly we're in this Kree world, and there's a lot more to explain than what they did in the movie, I guess.
And I think that was part of my problem too, is that I'm not as familiar with the Kree and the Skrulls. So it took me a while to sort of figure out what they were doing and what their dynamic was, and then the whole Jude Law character, I couldn't quite figure out what his motivation was. Like, he was good and then he wasn't good, and then so I was a little bit lost with that. I think I would have preferred if they had just sort of stuck with Captain Marvel, Nick Fury, and Marvel.
Yeah.
And made the movie just about the three of them, and sort of, because it really was a Nick Fury origin story too.
Yes.
Right? So it would have been sort of a cool way to introduced Nick Fury, and the Marvel thing was really important. I mean, I think that was really cool. I think it was the Jude Law part of it that sort of made it confusing for me.
But then they had this cool slow motion walk with her with all the Kree team.
That's true. They wouldn't have had that in there. I suppose
that would not have happened.
That's true. Okay, never mind. I'm wrong. Keep Jude Law.
There was a what was the name of the Supreme? There was like sort of the Supreme Being or whatever. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. In the comic, it's like a giant gelatinous head. It has all these like wires and things coming out of it, and I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. Like, it's cool in the comic.
I mean, it made sense to do what they did so that she would see Marvel and not know, like, it was almost like a memory trigger for her.
Yes.
To see this person and not know what it was, and then have all these flashbacks. And I thought the flashbacks were really cool, and I really liked her time in the Air Force. Like, I kind of wanted to see more of that sort of thing, like how she became, this cool person that she was. And it was good. Like, there was a lot to take in it, and I liked that it was set in the 90s. I thought that was really fun. Yeah, that was cool.
Apparently they shot the blockbuster scene at the actual last blockbuster.
Did they
There's
really?
one left,
yes.
And apparently that's where that whole thing was shot.
And then they destroyed it by having her fall through the roof. Wow,
she fell through the roof. But I enjoyed it. I liked the scrolls in it. I liked that whole part of it. There was a lot going on. There's some things obviously they did differently. Marvel in the comic was a man.
Oh.
So there's a lot of things like that they did differently. But I quite enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good. It was like it didn't bring anything really new to the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it filled in some backstory, I think. Yeah. And of course it set up for Endgame. There are two at the end. This I will not spoil.
Yep.
There are two scenes, post-credit scenes in this, so stay right to the very end.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, if you're interested in seeing Endgame, I think it's important to see this one, because I think Captain Marvel is going to play a big role in Endgame. That's the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, because she's super powerful.
Exactly.
She's almost slightly like a Superman of Marvel.
Even more so. Like, she could do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with her once they get her into the regular Marvel universe. Yeah. But it's good because they're probably going to lose some characters.
Yes.
So it's good that they have some of these characters that can kind of like go toe to toe with Thor, or of that strength. So we'll see what happens. But other than that, I enjoyed it. Yeah. I thought it was good.
I thought it was good. I think it was a good lead into the grand finale.
I sort of left it the same way I left Doctor Strange. I like Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange looked cool. Yeah. It was again a lot to take in, and it was a whole different vibe.
Yes.
So, but anyways, quite enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a good one, and that was a pretty spoiler review.
I don't think we really spoiled
a lot.
We talked about some plot points. I don't think we spoiled anything.
I guess it's not spoiled.
There are some big parts that we did not spoil.
Yes, that's true. So it's still worth going to see.
Other than the fact that Jude Law is in it.
Right.
Obviously, you can't stand Jude Law, but
Jude Law.
The whole time, it's one of those actors where I always recognize him, but he's always sort of different in every movie. So I'm like, is that Jude Law? I ask that every time I see a Jude Law movie. Is that Jude Law? And it's like, yes, it's Jude Law.
He's in this movie again.
Well, there's lots of other stuff coming out, so let's go to the news.
We have a minute and a half. It's my responsibility to tell the control room and New York that we won't be ready. We'll be ready. In 84 seconds. 15 seconds.
And now the news with Loop and Larry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretending to play bass during that. I didn't even know if there was a bass line in it, but it kind of felt like there was a bass line in that.
I feel like we're going to go back and add a bass line just to match what you just did. Even though you couldn't see it, it was cool. All right, so we've got a bit of news this week. We seem to talk about Stranger Things a fair bit on this podcast.
It crosses over a lot.
It's true. It's true. So we're talking about it again. They are releasing a Stranger Things prequel book, which I suppose was inevitable. So it's coming out. It's actually called Suspicious Minds, and it takes place in 1969, and it's about Eleven's mom when she became a test subject at the lab. So it's going to give you a backstory about how Eleven's mom became the way she is, and maybe this is why Eleven is the way she is. So it'll be doing that. And it's going to talk a little bit about Callie from season 2's Lost Sister. This is the sister. Mm-hmm. So we're going to find out a little bit more about her. And one interesting little tidbit, in 1969, the Upside Down was actually called The Beneath.
Oh,
interesting, right? Yeah.
If I knew how to read, I'd pick that
up. But you won't. So.
I know.
They are going to be releasing a second book in May, detailing Chief Hopper's life in 1977. So they're doing a lot of backstory in book form. with Stranger Things. Speaking of Stranger Things, just as a side note, I was recently in the United States of America and picked up a Target exclusive Stranger Things Season 2 box set, which is super cool because it comes in the form of an old VHS tape, but not the paper sleeve. It's the old hard plastic sleeve, and you open up the box. It's the same size as a VHS. Open up the box, and the right side of the box looks like an actual VHS tape.
That's cool.
It's amazing. Yeah, so they're really.
I would love
doing
to go
a good
back
job.
to the episode where we were talking about those movies re-released in the VHS boxes,
Yep.
and we both and you I think said, we don't need those. Why would I get that? I'd have to put it on my shelf. It's like,
and only 3 weeks later, here I go. This is,
Larry.
This is the gateway Blu-ray for me. Now I can't stop.
Remember, all these are taped. I can go back and find these clips if I really needed to.
Can you also delete them? Can you kind of erasing?
Oh man!
So anywho,
you just got burned.
Yes, I did. Okay, let's move on now. Walking Dead, which is what I feel like right now. Walking Dead is getting a spin-off show.
They're talking about another spin-off show. It's all come back up again, and the problem with Walking Dead is I like it and I don't like it at the same time.
It won't die.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Well, because it's gone on quite a few seasons, and they're talking about, of course, another. They've got these movies with Rick Grimes. They're talking about possibly Maggie might be doing a movie.
Really?
Because she's not on the show right now, but she has been said that she's not dead either. I think it all depends on how her new show, Whiskey Cavalier or whatever it's called, does.
If it doesn't make it,
doesn't do well.
She's got a
back.
She's got a backup plan.
The zombie door is open for her. So, anyways, they already have Fear of the Walking Dead. They're talking about another possible. So that, and I could see if they're going to do that, they'll probably spin off somebody from the regular series to sort of lead that into the next generation. But I don't know where they're taking this series. Like, I understand. Like, I mean, it's cool. I like it still, but it just. There's only so many arch enemies that can show up, and so many but I mean, I do like the Whispers thing they're doing now. They have done a good job in the last season of really bringing it back, and it's actually quite interesting right now. There was a while there I was kind of giving up on it a little bit, but I like to see where they take it. I'm sure that another spinoff might be all right.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm sure you're sure.
I don't watch Fear of the Walking Dead, so I don't know why I'd watch another spinoff.
That's right.
But I always have interest in going back. You know those shows where you're like, one of these days I'm going to go and watch all those episodes, and then soon it's like 5 seasons in, and you're like, that's not happening.
I feel like this is going to be one of those.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. What else we got? The Game of Thrones, the first trailer dropped.
Yeah.
The whole big long trailer. Woo! I just could not move for like 10 minutes after watching that.
Let's just put out there that Larry is a big Game of Thrones fan. Like, we both watched the show. My wife has read all the books, so the whole show, I'm just sitting beside her asking who everybody is. Yep. That's basically like, who's that guy again? What's going on here? Like, so, and she keeps saying now, she's like, it's beyond the books. I don't know, but she still knows who the characters are more than I do. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously a battle's a brewing.
Oh, it's going to be huge. I think we are finally going to see 6 full episodes of human versus White Walker. I think it's going to be literally fire versus ice on this one. And that's what it looks like. It looks like they might all the different houses might be coming together to literally battle the Walking Dead. Yeah. It's like a Walking Dead spinoff. So that's what it looks like. But you can't predict with this show. There's no way. I mean, the trailer looks one way, but who knows? Who knows what we're actually going to find out? But man, did they ever make that intense.
Is it bad that I'll probably cry if a dragon dies again?
Yes. Yes.
Why are we so attached to a dragon?
Because it's so cool, and there's only 3 of them.
I know. Now there's only 2, right? Didn't one die?
Yeah. Well, one is now an ice dragon.
That's right. Because
Ice King.
That's right. They pulled it back out of the ice. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, no. The Ice King hit it with his spear.
Yes.
Hit it with a spear. Thing came crashing down. Looked like it was dead. Opened his eye. It's blue. Now it's an ice dragon.
But didn't they drag it out of the ice?
No.
What was that? Remember
that was the Frozen 2 trailer.
It was not. There's a part where they had all those chains and they dragged something out of the ice. Remember all the zombies were walking with the chain and something. I feel like the dragon went under the water, then they dragged it out of the water.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this.
I'm pretty sure, because I remember thinking, where did they get those giant chains from? Is there like a Home Hardware near there, or like where is that coming from?
The White Walkers come equipped.
Yeah, apparently
they never know what they're gonna need.
Go back and watch. I'm pretty sure it's so hard. There's so much going on in that show. I can barely remember half the stuff that happens in it. But
okay, I'll go back and check.
Okay,
and then we'll make the correction next time.
We will.
Okay,
excellent. I love it.
Perfect. And then Marvel. One more little piece of TV news here. Marvel is going to be releasing on the Disney Plus streaming network a show called Marvel's What If, which is pretty cool because this is an animated show, and they've said it's non-canon, so all of these episodes are not part of the greater Marvel universe, but they're What If episodes. So the first one they're going to do is what if Loki wielded
Thor's hammer
instead of Thor? What would have happened?
Yeah.
And they're talking about doing what if Peter Parker was never bitten by a spider?
Yeah.
And he just lived his life as a teenager. What would the world have been like?
Yeah.
So there are all these what if.
And this is totally based on the What If comics from like the 80s, like late 70s, 80s that we used to, and they don't take place in the actual universe, right? So they're just sort of like, hey, what if this happened?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting concept for a show, for sure.
I think so. It's going to be something totally different.
Yeah.
So that's coming. I'm still not 100% sure that the Disney Plus streaming service is coming to Canada. I'm not sure if what's happening there. So
that's
have to
be one of those things
where
we're going to be all excited about it, and then it's like, oh, not yet.
Yeah,
and it'll be like another 3 years before we finally get it. It'll come to Canada for
I'm
sure.
sure it will. But at least we could talk about it until then.
Yeah.
So moving on to movie news, we have the follow-up movie from Ari Aster, who was the director of Hereditary, which I think is still one of the best movies of 2018.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe even the decade. I don't know. It was really good.
It was cool.
So his follow-up is called Midsummer. It's, I believe, pronounced Midsummer, but it's spelled Sommer, Midsummer, and that's his new the trailer just dropped for this. It looks to me like a retelling of the 1970s horror movie called The Wicker Man. Yeah, which I'm a big fan of. I think
remade by Nick Cage.
Yes, well, we don't talk about that. Nope. But it looks like this sort of gothic.
Pagan
cult.
It looks
situation.
cool. It looks really cool.
I'm very excited about this movie.
Yeah.
So that just dropped. Edge of Tomorrow, starring Loop's favorite actor Tom Cruise, is getting a sequel. A sequel has been greenlit. Not much else to talk about that other than maybe it will be called Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat. And repeat and repeat. I don't know.
It didn't have two titles.
It did. It was called Edge of Tomorrow, but then it was subtitled Live, Die, and Repeat because Edge of Tomorrow, people didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
What does that mean, Edge of Tomorrow? So,
I never saw it, so.
Well, now you have to.
Now I got to go back and see it.
You absolutely have to do that.
And then pretend that I've watched it when it came out.
Exactly.
You know.
Now you can talk about the subtitles.
Oh, I've been a fan of this forever, man.
And then Tolkien.
Yes.
The Tolkien trailer came out. So this is like giving us a little bit of that Hobbit magic, that Lord of the Rings magic that Peter Jackson gave us, but in real life.
Yeah.
So the trailer dropped. I think it looks fantastic.
It's like a biopic.
It's a biopic, but it's very obviously very fantasy based because it's how he led into how his life led him into writing Lord of the Rings. But it looks very stylish, and really the action looks very intense and cool, and I'm quite excited to learn more about.
Yeah, it seems like it's like maybe things that are in his mind, like things change and what inspired certain things from the books and stuff like that. There's also a whole part in it where it has me trying to read the books like 5 times before I finally got through them. That's the last half. I don't want to spoil anything.
Is that a post credit scene?
Yeah, that's a post credit scene of me going, why is this first part? Why are there so many hobbits having a party? I don't need to know about every single hobbit.
Why are they throwing the dishes? Stop throwing the dishes.
Why is it 25 chapters on a hobbit party? Please.
Well, hopefully the movie won't be like that.
That looks pretty cool.
It does. Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, the trailer came out kind of when we did the last podcast, like literally like an hour after we recorded it or something.
Right, yeah.
So it looks pretty cool. It's hard I find it hard with the X-Men ones. I like all the movies, but putting them together, like meshing them, like the timeline never quite goes together. Yeah. These ones have been pretty good. Yeah. But it looks pretty good. Like the Dark Phoenix comic series at the time, like that whole arc was so awesome. Like when they all sort of came about. So interesting to see another take on it because they did it in the original X-Men movies. But I felt like they really rushed it in those ones. Yeah. This one, it seems like it's a bit of a build, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. No, I think it's exciting. It's a new take on X-Men, and I think it needs a little bit of a like not a reboot, but just a bit of oomph to get that franchise back because Apocalypse didn't do so well.
Yeah, I did like Apocalypse though. I thought it was all right. But, all right. What do I know?
Well, I don't know.
I'm still trying to read Tolkien over
here. That's true. Finally, the full trailer for Aladdin has happened. We've talked about Aladdin already once.
Yes, but that was like the sort of like the teaser sort of trailer. This is a full trailer with it's the Will Smith version of that.
That's right, yeah.
So there's a lot more Will Smith. The only reason I want to talk about is because I saw the first trailer and I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see you next week. And this one, I'm like, all right,
maybe
it's not doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to be. It actually looks pretty cool.
It does. It actually looks really cool. There's a lot less blue genie in this one.
Yeah,
I don't know if they did that on purpose because when the first sort of teaser came out, the internet lit up with hashtag Will is blue.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a hashtag. I just made that up. But I think they purposely sort of included a lot of scenes of him not blue.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that when he appears like with regular people, he doesn't appear blue.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, that makes sense.
But like the musical numbers are probably going to be pretty cool and stuff.
I think there's a lot of potential for this one. I think it's pretty.
I think there's going to be some good jazz hands in this. Just saying.
Exactly.
My third wish is jazz hands.
I would see that movie.
Yeah, right. There you go.
So many movies and so many remakes. It's like we've gone back in time and we're trying to see these things all over again. Like they're brand
I feel
new.
like you're trying to do some sort of move to the pop capacitor.
Oh, let's take a walk over there while we're talking about the segue. Okay, let's get in.
All right. Move the seat back a bit here.
I'm just gonna take a nap.
88 miles per hour!
And
run!
I love this part.
I like how it's not really a full run. It's sort of like just more like it's a heavier stomp.
Exactly. It's really only about 5 or 6 steps, but it's a good workout.
So we talked about V in the last episode.
The miniseries.
The miniseries. And then they spawned a second called V, The Final Battle, which it was the second sort of like big miniseries after the first one was so successful.
Last year, the visitors arrived, and to Robin, one of them was very special. Now the truth is out. The visitors are not our friends. They are not like us. But Robin found out too late and will soon give birth to a visitor's child. It all happens May 6th when the world fights back. Don't miss the incredible all-new epic where everything you can imagine happens. The Final Battle on NBC.
Literally everything you can imagine is going to happen in this miniseries.
Wow.
That is a really big claim.
Yeah, that is. That guy's voiceover is the best, by the way.
It really is. I'm just stuck on that. I can imagine a whole lot. And I would be very surprised to see any of it in this miniseries.
And not one mention of Mark Singer.
No, what's up with that? But Robin sure gets the spotlight.
Robin gets a spotlight on that.
I thought it was great. I really like V. I think it stands up.
Oh, I totally do. I think it's a great. The second miniseries was really cool. So they left off the Resistance sort of got their first big battle win at the end of the first miniseries. So in this one, it's full, like they're right into it. Not everyone still knows the visitors, like what their intentions are.
No.
And so in this movie they expose them.
Yes.
In a very elaborate sort of like ordeal where they catch him on camera and then they rip his face off on camera so the whole world can see it.
But fortunately, they have some very specialized editing equipment where they could redo that segment and put the redone segment out there so that people will forget that they saw their faces being ripped off. And, it was just a mistake.
And this is the one too where like sort of everybody gets theirs.
Yes.
Like so everyone that you couldn't stand, like Daniel.
Yes, hated Daniel.
No one likes Daniel.
No.
So they all sort of get theirs in this series. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great extension of the series of that first mini series. There's a few things that still make me laugh. Like the special effects, of course, aren't as good as they are now.
No.
But so sometimes it was like what do you call it? It's like a cutout like over top
like a
of,
green screen.
Yeah, sort of
like
cut out.
A chroma key.
And sometimes it looks pretty good. Sometimes it doesn't look that great. And there was one part where they cut to the ship, and it's obviously just a still picture.
Yes.
Like you could totally tell it was a still picture of just like a painting or whatever.
And they're walking in front of it. It's like they're in an art gallery filled with pictures of the mothership.
It was really weird. There's a couple of parts I really enjoyed in it that I thought were kind of funny.
Yeah.
That could have been inspirations for other movies, but there's a part where there's a card that they have to get into this party, and it's been developed by the visitors, so it's like kind of electronic looking.
Yeah.
So they find this guy who's like, this looks like this thug who could somehow duplicate this card perfectly, and he looked exactly like the wolf from Pulp Fiction. Remember when Harvey Keitel tells the wolf and they have to call in the wolf? The guy had like the turtleneck and he was like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah. And he's like, but he looked like someone that called in specifically to do this, right? Like
because apparently there's a whole industry now out there where people can start duplicating visitor tech.
I know,
and he's one of those people.
Another part I quite enjoyed was the Donovan has to meet with the reporter Christine, who's from the ship.
Yes.
So he meets with her on horseback.
You know?
There was no reason for them to be on horseback.
No, there were a lot of scenes like that, a lot of like Jordache moments and like like romance novel scenes that didn't make any sense.
Like they were just in a park, but for some reason they were both riding horseback. It's almost like, hey, we can get a horse, so let's put it in the show.
Yeah.
Like they're just, and so then we can have a horse chase. Like at one point,
exactly. That's exactly so crazy. That was so. My favorite line in the whole series was Michael. So Michael Ironside is in this one.
I love Michael Ironside.
I do too. I could watch him in anything.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. He never smiles. Even in like victory, the victory against the visitors, he's still all like grizzly and I don't know.
He was the ultimate sort of like bad guy villain, sort of like tough guy in B movie or TV level stuff. He was on the A Team a lot.
Yeah,
like
he was everywhere. He was everywhere. But my favorite line is, so Michael Ironside has killed a visitor.
Yeah.
He shot the visitor, and you can see some of the human skin has peeled back. You can see the lizard underneath. He bends down and he says in his grizzled voice, "Now that's a waste of good luggage."
I actually wrote down that exact quote because I laughed when he said it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. That is badass.
I love that.
So
quote.
badass.
That's a waste of good luggage. Oh my gosh, that's the best.
The other thing I love in the show, and it was more, I noticed it more in this series, was how bad they were at shooting each other.
Oh, they had no sense of aim at all.
Like they missed each other every time. I mean, which is probably maybe what would happen in a real like battle, because you're only like, going around a corner quick and shooting. But it's like, God, no one could hit anybody. I was like, are these guys trained by Cobra?
This was it totally reminded me. I don't know if anybody will remember the show. Well, the Naked Gun series with Leslie Nielsen. There was a show before it called Police Squad.
Yep.
And there was a recurring scene in that where the police would have shootouts with the bad guys from behind garbage cans that were literally 10 feet apart. And they would stick up, shoot, go down, and nobody would ever hit anybody. And that's exactly what was going on here. They were 10 feet apart. Nobody could hit anybody. It's like, is this a spoof? What's going on here?
There was also I noticed too, like a couple of like side characters. Like there's a lot of characters in it, right? Because they're trying to build this society of all these different characters.
Yes.
And there was a couple side characters in it that made me kind of laugh. That were like just like there was the officer and his girlfriend who was with Daniel. It was like Daniel's girlfriend as well, but she was only doing it to get information. And it was funny because these guys. Did you really care about these characters?
No.
Like it was like they had to have them in it, but it was like you probably could have cut about 15 minutes of the show out by just not having these characters on it, right?
But they also had to fill 4 hours of television, so I don't know if
I think a lot of that was filled with those bad gunfights.
Yes. And horse riding. Don't forget the horseback riding.
That horse machine still makes me laugh. It was so weird.
So good. It was great.
So the other thing that this sort of at the end of the series, and this will be a spoiler if you haven't seen it from '84, it is coming up in May. It did say in that.
That's true. It's coming. It's coming.
So at the end, to kill the visitors, they have this powder.
Yes.
I guess it
looks like paprika, actually.
Yeah, this looks like paprika. And there's a scene where so they're launching it into the air, so I guess it would get into the atmosphere. It doesn't hurt humans.
Yeah.
So they're in these balloons.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
And it looks like the footage is obviously just footage from a they didn't shoot a lot of the footage.
No. No, it's like stock footage of 1,000 balloons in the air, because there's no way that they launched 1,000 balloons.
They had shots of like a couple of them dropping the stuff out, but which I'm sure was not good for the environment when they did that.
Well, and when they dropped it out, they dropped like 3 ounces. Like if you look at and they were so far in the air, there's no way any of this stuff would even have reached the ground.
Well, this is the other thing too, because sometimes there was a part where like they've got this tube and they're blowing it into the exhaust system of the ship, which doesn't account for any of the other ships that are up there. Only this one.
This is one.
So they're putting it into the ship. And it's all over the place. You can see it. So when the visitors come in to have a shootout with them, it doesn't seem to affect them until they blow it directly in their face. So I don't know what's the potency of this powder, because sometimes it's deadly instantly, even if it's just in the air, and other times they have to get blown in their face, like literally covered in it in order to like die from it.
The whole dropping it from balloons idea was completely ineffective. There's no
I don't know
possible way that could have worked.
I don't know what that was. So anyways, after I think this stands up.
Oh, it absolutely does. I loved it.
So there's a series after. So after that was done, they actually had a full series. I think it went 18 episodes.
Yeah, 19 episodes.
And it was based on the baby of which we haven't talked about at all.
No, that's right.
The baby of
Robin.
Who can forget Robin? And so she had 2 babies. One was human, but sort of had like sort of magic powers, I guess.
Sort of a lizard tongue.
Yeah, I think she's called Star Child in the series.
Yes.
And then the other one was an actual like looking lizard.
Yeah, it was horrific.
Which was like the toyest, like you know, if that's a word, toyest, but it looked like a toy. Like
it did. It looked like something you'd find at Toys R Us, like a really cheap rubber doll.
but it was still kind of like, it was something about it, like he felt for it when it died.
Oh
like,
it didn't last very long. But so the series is about the little girl, because the little girl now has the powers of human and
because she grows like at an alarming rate until she becomes a teenager, then suddenly she stops. Yeah,
that's right. Puberty hits, and that changes everything.
That is done. So they had a series, 18 episodes, and then they kind of relaunched it in the 2000s.
Yeah, 2010. They did a full reboot with Marina Baccara. As Diana. And it was pretty cool. Like
I liked it.
It lasted 2 seasons, and it was a really good reboot. Like the action was intense, and it was darker, just because they had a bigger budget, so they could everything was, the writing was much better, and the sets were better.
Scott Wolf was in it.
Scott, of course, yeah. So that was something. So it was really good, and then it was canceled at the worst possible moment, because the whole thing with V was leading up to the original series, was leading up to this birth, the birth of this hybrid baby, and you were so excited to see it. So in the reboot, you knew it was coming, and you were like, "Oh my gosh, this is great!" So season 2 ended with Diana, or the character, about to give birth. And that's when the show ended. And you're like, oh, that was a great cliffhanger. I can't wait to see this thing. And then they canceled it, so we never ever saw it.
I know.
That was the worst.
It was dumb. I don't know how it got canceled. I feel like if it came out like now, like someone would have picked it up.
Yes.
but they just sort of left it and it went.
I don't know. It was so disappointing.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know why it got canceled so quickly, but maybe because no one watched it. I don't know.
But the fact that they're still trying to reboot V, like it shows the lasting power of V.
It's a cool story. I think the arc was great and the characters were good. Mark Singer and
stop with Mark Singer.
Beastmaster's going to make his way into the show at some point.
Yeah, that's very true.
But no, it was great. I quite enjoyed it, and I'm glad that we had a chance to look back at it. It was something we could pull off our shelves and dust off.
Dust off the snap case.
Yeah, that one wasn't a snap.
No.
That was like an open, like a double opener.
Yeah, I don't know what that thing is called, but it was pretty slick. It was this cardboard trifold.
It was cool packaging,
thing.
and the packaging for the series, the 84 series, is cool too.
Yeah,
it's like a silver packaging.
Oh, it's neat.
Yeah,
that's where they put their budget for the second series into the packaging.
That's right.
They forgot about the actual production, put it in packaging.
We completely forgot. So thank you so much for listening to that part. We got a great show coming up next week. We don't normally do a weekly show, but next week we have a special episode.
Yeah, this is an incredible thing. You're going to want to download the episode on the 22nd of March, because we are going to be talking to David Weiner, who was a reporter and writer for Entertainment Tonight for 14 years. And he is also right now currently writing and directing a documentary called In Search of Darkness, which is about iconic 80s horror movies.
Yeah.
And it's the first documentary of its kind. And what this guy is doing with documentary, with the horror genre in this documentary is astounding. It's really, if you are at all interested in horror or horror from the 80s, you will not want to miss this, because it will bring back every nostalgic moment of your horror life.
Yeah, it's cool. And there's a trailer online too of this movie, and it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, so you will not want to miss.
I feel like I was in the Jumbo Video
yes.
horror section with the. Did you have that? Like, did you ever remember that? Like,
oh yeah,
they had a castle. Like it was like, and you walk into the castle, and they had all the horror VHS
stuff.
was separated from everything else.
Yeah, that was so fantastic. And this deals with the documentary actually deals with the VHS era too. So it talks about VHS tapes, and it's very exciting. So you'll want to check out the Loop and Larry special podcast.
Well, that's happening next time. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Loop.
And I'm Larry.
And we'll see you next time.
Produced by Matthew C. Loop and Lawrence Simner. A Loop and Larry production.
Bueller.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Bueller.
Bad news. The fog is getting thicker.
And Leon's getting larger.
Inconceivable.
Brian's right. It's an elf.
Wax on.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Wax off.